if you were going to draft the 4 quarterbacks in the AFC North for this season, not long term, because obviously Ben is much older, but for this season, in what order would you take them?
All right, so we all know what number 1 would be. We know that. That's given, right, in Jackson. Number 2, you got to go Big Ben. The body of work that he has so far, I understand he has the elbow, but you got to go with Big Ben. So number 3, look, has Baker Mayfield ever played better than what we saw from Joe Burrow last year? He has never done that. So number 3 for me is Joe Burrow. And then number 4 is Baker Mayfield. He has to show me more. When I watched tape from last year, very inconsistent, played well against teams that he should have played well against. And then when there was a test on the line and he had to play against a hard team, like, say, the Patriots, you know, we remember that fumble that he had. Look, that play in particular, I remember that as pretty embarrassing. So when you are in the NFL, you're going to be critically looked at and scrutinized. And I feel like last year, it wasn't a great outing for him. He had some flashes of greatness, but then a lot more of just question marks. We don't know. That's why he's number 4 for me.
All right, that's interesting. Domonique, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to argue for Baker coming off of that, but I feel like I have to. Like, I understand that Joe Burrow had the greatest passing season of a quarterback we've seen in college football, but it is college football. And I know Baker hasn't been great often, but last year they knocked off the Ravens. They went into Baltimore and Baker knocked off the Ravens. I understand that's just one game, but the Ravens were the best team in football last year. So I think I would still probably put Baker 4th, but I feel the need to defend him in some ways. I think Lamar's number 1. Obviously, and then I go with Ben Roethlisberger at number 2 because you're right about the body of work. I think I'm going to stick with Burrow at 3 because his potential, I think, is so high, and go with Baker at 4. But I think we might be singing a different song at the end of this coming season. I like to think that Baker will get better under a better head coach and more stability and a team that knows each other a little better. So I like to say that Baker is going to get better. And we haven't seen Joe Burrow play in the NFL at all, which I guess is a plus. But we've seen Baker play well in the NFL. Though it hasn't been consistent, that's something that you could hope he can improve upon. I'm putting him at 4 right now, but maybe he jumps to 3 or 2 after this coming season.
Can I say something in defense of Baker Mayfield? And I grant that last year was just a complete mess for the organization from top to bottom, and he deserves his share of responsibility for that. But if you look at the 2 seasons prior to his arrival in Cleveland, and then the 2 seasons that he has played, they have literally won 13 times as many games in those 2 seasons that they did the 2 before. They were 1-31 in the 2 seasons before his arrival, and they have won 13 games and tied another with him as their quarterback the last 2 years. Is it fair, Rob Ninkovich, to be putting all of the weight of what has been the worst franchise in the sport by far on that kid after everything that happened last year?
Look at the roster. Look at his roster. He's stacked, loaded. You got OBJ and you got Landry together on the same team. Like, come on. If you had those guys together, if you're Tom Brady, what are you doing with those guys? I mean, tearing up people. So I just think that the team has so much talent.
He was a victim of expectations.
I mean, he's got talent.
I think last year. I understand that he has a lot of talent, but Greeny's right. You can't put it all on him. They are better, and you can't give him all the credit for the fact that they have 13 times more wins. Like, he doesn't get all the credit, or he doesn't get all the blame. I do think he has a lot of traits that make me excited or interesting. Well, to be fair, he has one real good trait: accuracy. I think that the other traits are issues, but there's nothing more important in my mind for an NFL passer than to be accurate consistently. He wasn't that accurate last year, but he's been accurate. He's been incredibly accurate. If we're in college, if we're basing Burrow's projection on his college career, you can look at what Mayfield did in college. It was pretty impressive too.
I will 100% say it again. He's going to have a big year, and they're going to make the playoffs. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.